We are proud to present Cedric Varcoe explaining the creation stories of his beautiful painting at Old Coach Road Estate.
Hello, my name is Cedric Varcoe and I'm a Ramangiri Naranga artist and cultural sharer and mentor. And over the years I've been immersing myself in culture, but also creating works that represent our rich cultural history in the Fleurieu Peninsula around through most of the Fleurieu, from the Fleurieu over to the lakes and then Lower River Murray. And I'm going to share with you a bit about, our history here of the Fleurieu, where my family have lived for thousands of years and continue to live, right up until modern day Victor Harbour. And before getting taken to Rauken, we're now able to move back and look after and care for and look after our sacred sites and sites that are significant to us in our stories. So in my artwork that I've created here is representing the journey of Nurundri, who's one of our ancestors who came from north and down what is now the River Murray and created that down into the lakes. And then once he had then gotten down into the land of the Nurundri, he had then made his way over to my clan group's particular area, the Fleurieu, Ramangiri country. Nurundri came along the Kurrung. As he came along the Kurrung and got to Gulwa, he then moved around from Gulwa to Middleton and then came through to Pultung. When he had then gotten to Pultung, he had seen his wives walking along the beach, what we call the Yellow Rui. As he seen them walking along, he sung out to them, but they could not hear him. So as they could not hear him, he then threw his spears into the Yellow Rui, and he said, Nung Rui. Nung Rui means that he said, you become land. So he had made Granite Island, Right Island, West Island. As he then moved down into what is now Victor Harbour, Pultung, he had then walked over the waters, climbed up onto Granite Island, Kaiki is what we call it in our language, and he sang out to his wives again, who was playing in the beach down near King's Beach, just a bit past the bluff. Nurundri then could not get their attention, so he banged his club down, his plongi, down into the ground and made the bluff, what we call Pultung now. Victor Harbour is the place of the club where he banged it down. And so we call it Longkoa. Longkoa means looking down from above. And but it represents the bluff that Nurundri banged down into the ground to make the bluff before he journeyed on and went over and created what is now Kangaroo Island and then went up into the spirit world. But Nurundri then, as he banged the club down, he then walked over and he sat down at Moomarank. Moomarank is the mouth of the Inman River, where my particular family lived before the non-Indigenous people come, the Crinkary people. As he then sat down, he had seen them there. As he seen them there, he was telling them, I'm going to show you how to perform the ceremony. So as they all gathered there, Kent Reserve is what it is called now, but we would call it Moomarank. Moomarank means the mouth of the Inman, but a very important site for us. But it was the last camping ground for Ramangiri, for my particular family in general, who were the last families to be forcibly removed from there. But now it's a parkland that now is called Moomarank, and it's got a lot of information there today about our old people and what that site was utilised for in the traditional times. Nurundri sat with them and showed them the smoking ceremony. As he showed them the smoking ceremony, he walked over to King's Beach where he threw his fish net in, what we call Nakari. Nakari means the place of the shark. When he walked there, he put his fish net in and he made a fish trap. And that fish trap can still be seen today before he journeyed further on the Fleurieu to Kangaroo Island. But it not only represents Nurundri's story, it also represents Condoli's story. Condoli is the whale man the whale, what is now the whale, that's what we call Condoli, is the whale. In the Kalanangangiri, in the creation time, Condolly lived at Ratalang at Middleton. As he lived at Middleton, he had possessed magic that no Ramangiris or Narangiris had before, and the magic was fire. So as he lived there, he had seen two brothers stumble across him to see him performing the magic. As he seen them performing the magic, they then was in awe of him, like was surprised and shocked at how beautiful the magic had looked. So they run back to all the people in the Amish Valley, Mutabaringa we call the valley, and as they run back and told all the Lakangiri, all the people who had gathered there for ceremony during the day under the heat of the sun, they wanted that magic because they was thinking of the possibilities that they could, so many possibilities with the magic that could have helped them throughout the day. Instead of dancing during the day, they could have danced during the night. So they sent two messengers, Rubili and Ritaruki, back to tell Condolly. As Condolly had accepted the invite, he had then gathered up his possessions and started to journey from Middleton, or what is now Middleton, and in between Port Elliot and Middleton. At the caravan park is the site where Condolly actually lived. And as they took him back into the Amish Valley, everybody came from all over the Ngarrindjeri Nation, from various different regions within Ngarrindjeri ruling, within our lands, and they gathered there to celebrate Condolly's magic. So as Condolly's begun the journey and got into the valley, into Mutabaringa, they were all getting prepared and started to paint themselves up, and as they were painting themselves up, putting the leaves and stuff like that in their hair and around their feet, and they started to dance, clapping their boomerangs and clapsticks and clubs, beating on their possum skin drums. And Condolly, he started to dance as he was walking into the ceremony ground and getting ready for the rimmeling, what we call dancing or ceremony or celebration. He started to tap his feet and the sparks came from it. As he was doing that, everybody was like, whoa, what's going on? And they never seen such event before. So they all celebrated and started to beat faster and faster and started to sing to Condolly. And as he started to sing, Rubili and Ritaruki got their spears ready, their kaikis ready to throw them at Condolly. But as they were doing that, the people said, no, let me spear him, no, let me spear him. So it went right around the whole ceremony, but it was too late. The spear come out of the sky and hit Condolly in the back and struck him in the neck. And as it struck him, the burst of sparks and that came from him and landed on people. So everybody started to flee and run out into Pultung, into Victor Harbour. As they run out of the Amish River, they became the seal, the stingray, the shark, the Tommy rough fish, the mulloway. And those that stayed at the campground at Mutabaringa, they rolled around into the sand. They become like possums and goannas and lizards and snakes. And those that had the leaves onto them, they upped up into the tree, and as they were trying to dry themselves out and eat themselves for the leaves, they become like the black cockatoos and the magpies and the crows and all that, and the various other birds. And Condolly, he run out of the Amish River. As he run out of the Amish River and come out at Victor Harbour at Pultung, as he come into the Yallalarui, into the ocean, he turned into the whale, where he spouts the water up out of his neck now, out of his spear wound, and he frequents the water every year back to the place where he belonged, back to where his miwi was created at Pultung, at Victor Harbour. As he knew they were coming back, he already hid the magic, so he walked over and he planted into the grass tree. As he planted it into the grass tree, he left the magic there so that they could not steal it from him, and he punished them as they tricked her into coming to the ceremony. He punished all of them by turning them into the various different Nachis. Nachi means, it translates to good friend. That's what we call Nachi. It means like a totem. that, you know, they're there, our carers, look after us, protect us spiritually, physically and emotionally, and we had to do the same thing for them as well. And as he headed into the grass tree, when the sparks had landed all around Mutabringa, all around like the Armash Valley, there's still flint that the sparks had created that you can use to make fire. And the grass tree is the same thing. When you put the magic into there, we can make fire from the grass tree as well. And so when Condolly comes back every year, we would sit by the water along the sand hills and make fires and celebrate his return back into Narangiri, Ramangiri, Yallalarui, back into our waters, that he would come back and he would bring his family back to know where they can travel back to where they were created, their spirit was created, where they were physically created in the dreaming. And as he brings them back, he's showing them, just like how we take our young ones back on country and show them sites and show them the story sites and show them the bush tucker and everything they need to know. That's the same thing Condolly does. He brings them back to Ratalang, back to the place that he lived at, but back into the waters that he was created from too, you know. And in this, as they were dancing, their beaten feet, as they were beaten on the ground, they made all these ponds, and the sweat poured from them during the heat of the day, and they filled the ponds and the rivers with water now. And as they formed the whole valley, it was from their dancing feet that all this country was flat, and then they as they were dancing on it, beating their feet into the ground, they had then made all the valley that we get to see in Maya today. And when you're looking from up here at Old Coach Road, and you're overlooking Granite Island and Pultang, Kaiki, you're overlooking the waters that Condolly, the Rui, that Condolly had created, and the rest of our ancestors had created for us in the Kalanawindiri, in the creation. And still today, these ponds are now being turned into dams for the farmers to use for water. But traditionally, they were what our people also used and blocked off to keep water storage during the warmer weather. And when the rain wasn't about, that they would have water all year round. And so the artworks representing our history, our stories, and our lands and waters, and what that means for us. And in the Kalana, like in the creation time, Kaiki, now, you know, when you walk across the causeway, that's actually where Narundri walked over the waterways and climbed up onto the island. And so it's a shallow seabed that goes straight across, you know. And the Amash and the Hinman was created in that time when they all gathered. But we also have another ancestor who moved about and created, that was Limi and Taupangi, who created the Hinman and the Amash as well in a part of the Kalanawindiri. And not only Mumra, but Portang in general is a very significant place for Narangiri to come. And while these big campsites are here, they're representing like the Armash Valley, and then over here is the Inman Valley. And these places were significant for our people to gather and trade with, like Ghana or Paramount, were given permission to come in and gather and attend such events, such ceremonies, gatherings, that where trade and catch up and stuff like that taken place. And you know, just general connection with each other, you know, keeping our cultural ties strong as well. And that's what they were used for as well. There's a lot of mittens and fishing grounds and camping spots all along the coast that are significant for our people. And most people live around them or you know, live right on top of them, some of them, you know. But they're very significant areas for us, you know. And up here we have the rain and the lightning and the thunder, and that's representing like the sky realm. when we hear thunder, that's Narunda's voice echoing across our lands, letting us know that he's watching over us. But they bring us rain to look after country, to keep country growing. Then we got the sun. So when we say Nakari and Ragi, like good day, how are you? The Nakari means the sun, and to us that's the giver of life. And you know, in the Kala Nawingiri, in the creation, she was a woman, and we're probably the only clan that actually refers to the sun and the moon as female that I'm aware of. And as she was in the dreaming, she had a big belly that everybody thought that she was expecting a baby, so they told her to rest. And as they told her to rest at the campground, they'd bring her food and everything that she needed. And then time had went by, but no baby had come, so they got suspicious and started questioning her. So she had then stood up and walked between everybody as everybody gathered and started handing food and telling her to sit back down and rest. She didn't see at the end that the old man had pulled the sky down. As he had pulled the sky down, the old Pakanu, the grandfather, she had tripped over in it, and he had let them go, and he had trapped her into the sky realm where now she shines bright as the sun. And then when she goes to sleep, she comes up as the moon then, and there's time for rest, time to recuperate, recharge your miwi, and for her to pop up the next day, then we can move about and do what we need to do during the day. And then along the inland and the Hamash, there's sites that are hunting grounds, but also, you know, camping grounds that are, you know, where our people would travel back and forth when trading. They would stop at these sites to rest and spend a couple of days or to hunt and just to recuperate before coming back to where they lived without, you know, where they permanently lived. Ramangiri and Narangiris, you know, like today, some people have holiday houses that they travel to for holidays. Well, that's the same as we did. We had our homes along the waters, but when the weather was rough and the winds were too much, they'll go inland into the valleys where they will stay for a period of time. So that was their holiday destination that they stayed at, where they were escape the elements, the rough elements of the weather. And then through, you see a lot of the tools and things like that our old fellows are carrying or that are laying around near the camps. But they represent all the tools that we use throughout our life to hunt, to gather, to protect ourselves, but also for creating and showing and sharing that information to our younger generation as well. And then on there you'll see our ancestors who are painted up, and these are like possum skins. The ones that are sitting are wearing possum skins, the ones that are standing are wearing their traditional body design. And they're representing our ancestors, but also our family, us as Narangiri, as our men and warriors, and the caretakers and the protectors of our Lakangiris, our families, and that's their role. Is they always carry their tools, you know, for protection, but also for hunting and for gathering wherever they go. Just like we carry our phones and computers and you know, important information when we're traveling around to various places, you know, or we leave it in the car. That's the same thing that our people had done as well. And then, you know, these lines that are going through from parts of the waterholes and things like that through the creeks, they're representing our ancestral journey paths. So Adelaide Road is actually built on a very important trade route. That was traditionally, when the non-Indigenous people come in, they actually took them down into what is now McLaren Vale and Wollonga, and took them down in there to show them sites as they were being, you know, sought after for guides. And that was one of the trade routes as you're driving from Victor Harbour into Adelaide to Mount Compass. Mount Compass is when you're now leaving Ramangiri country. When you then leave Mount Compass, you're then entering into Ghana country. And they took them down, them them ancestral journey tracks, trade routes, to get them to various areas, you know, where the paths were pretty small, but they were able to get through them. And a lot of our roads throughout the Fleurieu are built on our ancestral trading routes or journey routes to trade. So never mind what road you go down, it would have been traditionally a trade route track or a shortcut to get to various different places within the Fleurieu and up through to Strathalbyn and Murray Bridge and places like that as well, onto the other side of the lake. And then you see a lot of the plant life through the bush tuckers and things like that, and the weaving rushes and the grasses that, you know, when you're observing out the window, you know, you see what is now more, you know, the invasive grasses, but you see some places that there is some native grasses still coexisting there, still surviving, and the trees and things like that, that is what they represent, the scrubs and that as well. And then these ones are representing the mittens, but also the mussels and the abalone and things like that that was harvested and gathered for feasting. And you know, that was once our traditional resources that we still eat today mostly, you know. And our nachis, the tracks are representing the various nachis that are significant to our people, and representing them being created from when they came into the Mutabringa, into the valley together. They then left as animals, so that's what it's representing, them being now transformed into our nachis, our totems. And Narundri, further on in the story, up around Wellington on the Lake Alexander, he had then created all the fish, that some of the fish had started migrating into the ocean that became what are now the fish species that we have. But also when the people had run with the sparks onto them to dive into the water, they became some of the species of fish in that as well. And so we rely heavily on you know, the salt water and the fresh water, but also on the lands for our, you know, to support us, sustain us, to keep us, to survive, help us survive. And so we water people, and water is the very essence of our miwi, our connection, our belonging. And when I'm painting it, I like to add a lot of blue in there because that's representing us as the water people. And you know, water is what makes us the people that we are, what makes Ramandiri people, what makes Narandiri people is water. And that's what the artwork's representing. Anonimti, thank you for kungan nanui yanan, nanui rui yellow rui rulang. Thank you for listening to about my lands and about my waters and about my Lakandiri, my old people, my ancestors and my family. And I look forward to you enjoying the artwork and appreciating when you're staying here and knowing a bit about the history. When you overlook throughout the beautiful windows here, you'll be seeing a lot of elements that is in the artwork that was created in the colour Nawindiri, in the creation by our ancestors. And as you're overlooking, I want you to think about how our old people lived here and you know, and keeping their miwi, their spirit strong within country, and keeping their sight strong as well. And I shall knock at you next time. See you. Thank you.